What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? The moon's in Scorpio. I find that with Scorpio that there's a real power to Scorpio. Thinking about how they're traditionally ruled by Mars and how they really can move through emotions. They can take the what can seem like something that's constricting you when a particularly strong emotion comes through, and you can take that same quote unquote venom that Scorpio has and turn that into a medicine to heal and into it's just alchemize. It's really wild with Scorpio. I love talking about Scorpio energy, and we'll get into all that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Mars, wherever. This one's for you. And I do tarot cards read based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, and when it's going to avoid, of course, just all them lunar shenanigans. I'm not sure what that hand gesture is about. And just so you're all lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, let's jump into it. Because we're feeling settled. I finally got my setup here is getting slowly coming together here. I got the technology more or less figured out. One baby steps. But before we were speaking of, depending on when you're watching this, happy Sunday. I'll give you a guess to figure out what day the sun rules. The sun is associated with Sundays. And this is, I think, is a great time to just check in, like it's a vitality check. The sun is the thing that fuels the body, the light behind this vessel that you've created. It's the thing that creates and helps us shine bright. And I think that on top of just like a great time of just checking in as far as like really like as far as like your passions and dreams, of course, your divine inspiration, but more even just specifically your health. How's that looking? How do you feeling vitalized? What are some ways that you can get some more vigor in your life? It's similar. I like talking about like the sun because I work out on these days, the sun days, Mars days, and Jupiter days. There's motion that come with those celestial bodies, and the sun, I think too, it can be like for like sun hours, for example. You can maybe schedule an appointment with like an energy healer or a doctor or something along those lines. See how that looks. But yeah, just explore the things too that just lighten you up. I think this is a great time to, maybe during sun hours, do a creative little endeavor. Maybe something that you like doing. Maybe you like playing soccer. Maybe you like playing the guitar. Maybe you like painting. Maybe you like building things, whatever that's looking like for you. Allow yourself that space, whenever you can. I think that'd be a great way of working with the Sunday. And another way to work with Sunday, the day of rest. But as I work out. But also when we think about the sun, or at least one thing that I like to do on these planetary days, excuse me, is think about my relationship with the sun, what house it's in, 12th house, what sign it's in, Cancer. So it's like when, kind of when in there. But, I like to think about that relationship. How am I working with that? How have those things been showing up? How I do with solar transits. When the sun is going through a particular house, what does that look like? What do I particularly feel? Lit up. That's how I feel. The sun is going through my ninth house right now while it's going through Aries. And there's something, and I felt this last year too. I'm already pretty high energy, but it's like cranked. It's like to the max. It was, oh goodness, it was just forming a square, or about to form a square with my nodes right now, so that's a little trickiness. But once it gets to like Mars, that's gonna be something else. A lot going on with my Mars placement, I think, right now. But yeah, those are some things to think about. I like to look at my solar return chart too. Return charts could be a great way of working with the planetary days. But let's get into the lunar shenanigans. Enough about that sun. where actually, I mean, reflects the sun's light. But on the 13th of April, the moon is going to enter into Scorpio at about 6:55 a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. And she's in a waning gibbous phase. Now, the waning gibbous I find is a great time. Is you're just coming off of the full moon, so we're really just kind of taking all that in. We're now have a different set of awareness. We had this expectation, and now we've really seen it for what it is. So, how do we feel about that? You know, when we start at the new moon, we're taking something inside of us and putting it out there. We're making some sort of change where we're putting ourselves out in the chaos and trying to fit our version of the universe into whatever puzzle pieces happen to be around us. And then the full moon shows us how those pieces are melding, if they meld at all. Maybe they're just like, you know, we're trying to fit a circle in a square, you know, square peg. But you know, that's something with the waning gibbous to think about. Okay, now that this thing has happened, where can I make these adjustments? And sharing, you know, even like what you learned from this thing. You know, this could be talking about, this could be actually literally sharing. Maybe you happen to have like a vlog and you share these, you know, like, hey, I went through this challenge. I'm doing my second lunar return challenge and blah, 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 this happened. And maybe something really neat. So, yeah, just some things to think about with the gibbous phase. But then when you talk more specifically about the moon in Scorpio, Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, and they're the fixed water sign. They're receptive or yin in nature. And this is a tricky place for the moon to be because this is where she experiences her fall, specifically at 3 degrees of Scorpio. But when a celestial body is in its fall, this is where the planet tends for its more lower vibrations to act out. You know, for those more sort of like quote unquote bad habits to come through, you know, just the kind of those again negative expressions of the moon. And in this case, the moon is about how we feel. And so the moon can maybe get caught up in some old emotions, you know, maybe revisiting the past, kind of reminiscing about an old cycle and just really kind of ruminating, almost feeling like you're in it again. I think with Scorpio can feel again so deeply. But I think that the moon in Scorpio, where if you learn to navigate those pitfalls, you know, because it's not like when a celestial body's in its fall that it's just going to forever just fall into, you know, to make these mistakes. No, the purpose is to learn from them. And I find that planets in their fall, where it requires a lot of work, that work has really big rewards, you know, but it just requires a more effort as opposed to a planet, you know, when the moon's in Taurus, her best attributes shine bright there. It's hard for her to mess up in the moon in Taurus. But it's still possible, you know. But I just think that it's something to think about when we think about a celestial body in fall, that you can work with it constructively, but it is something that's going to require a bit extra of you, and it's going to require maybe facing something that's a little bit tougher as you're ready to deal with that. You know, the beautiful thing with Scorpio, I think it'll meet you where you're at, you know, and just like figure out how. But I think it's one, acknowledging that the thing is there, because if you let the thing just lurk underneath, that Scorpio energy is going to sense it, and if we don't have a familiarity with it, it's going to keep probing, it's going to keep poking, and it's going to come out in like other people, and like, and it won't be maybe if you don't explore it, it'll come out in other people, whether they ask you something about it or they'll say something that triggers a reminder about this, and then you see what happens, and then something, and then there it is. It's just always in your face. So that's something I find with Scorpio. Instead of letting that thing fester and letting that just sit there, you have to find a way to move that. And I find, you know, there was a particular moon in Scorpio where I remember having just like really feeling a lot. This is Scorpio season. There's a lot going on. It was a lot going on. And I got some chocolate. It's one of my favorite stores. I got some dark chocolate, and I don't know what I thought it was going to do. I've had dark chocolate before, but it was incredibly bitter. And in that time of thinking how bitter it was to even just swallow that, it took me out of what I was feeling, you know, and it just like, you know what, if I could deal with that, you know, that made what I was dealing with way more digestible. So sometimes I find with Scorpio energy, if you have like me and you got a lot of fixed placements, doing something like that can help you move through that energy. But if you happen to have like a lot of water placements, or maybe even like earth placements outside of Taurus, this could be something like Virgo, Capricorn. This could be something where you see a lot of maybe some opportunities come through, or maybe some movement with that water energy spray. So this could be dope. You know, this is surf it up with that moon in Scorpio. So that can be a grateful way or a great way of just working with this energy, because the moon travels so fast, keeping track of aspects. I've been doing that for this year. I'm under Cancer rising for my solar solar return, so I'm watching the lunar transits, and she does a lot. She's always forming aspects, but you get to figure out those sort of like busier times, and then those times where it's a little more quiet, but things can still kind of come up. But it's fascinating to observe. But I think that's all I got with you there for the lunar shenanigans. I think that letting go is going to come up here too, because let's get into your general. Oh, that was supposed to be more smooth. But let's get into your general energy of the day, which is hexagram 14, which speaks about the great harvest. And who doesn't love a great harvest, especially during the Scorpio moon? But if you want to look a bit more into these changing lines and how these, really meditate on them and see what comes up for you when you sit with that stuff. It's really fascinating. There's a link in the description box with for just an 18 website. You don't have to use that one. It's just like one that I use to get the kanji for these slides. But it has a slightly different translation. I think it's like great treasure or something like that. That's not right, but something along those lines. They all have slightly different meanings. But this is fire over heaven, which that gives to me the fire of heaven. I love that divine will. That's just kind of getting ready to as we go into Sag energy. But this great harvest, we're going to focus on line 4 and line 6. So definitely you want to check that out, those lines specifically in your hexagram there. But let's talk about line 4. Because the line 1 talks about burn the rainmaker, no blame. And when I think about a rainmaker in this scenario, this makes me think about maybe people who, because Scorpio energy I find wants that sort of deep bond with we want to feel things, and not on a superficial level. We want to have a level of intimacy. It doesn't have to be, you know what I mean, to want to have that feeling of trust there, that we can share things, and that this is a judgment-free zone, and that we can be constructive in this. And if you ever had a point where someone maybe made some sort of like promise for you that they could do this thing for you, that they would, that the rain, when the metaphorical rain would come, wherever you felt disappointed or felt let down or felt something along those lines where someone couldn't deliver like you wanted them to, this is the time to let that, to let that go, especially if you've been holding that for a long time. Maybe you've been thinking about the time wasted on that. And instead of thinking of like that, think about what you gained from that. Man, discernment, one, better, keener judgment. Because that's one thing. If you don't get anything else from a situation, you get wisdom, which may not always seem like it's worth a lot. But when a similar situation comes around, it keeps you from repeating the same cycle, and hopefully helps wake somebody else up. But that's what I get with this kind of burn the rainmaker. Let's move through those energies that you've been holding on to, or that maybe been preventing you from really maybe reaping a more bountiful harvest. This could be where you had like a past relationship, someone who promised you the world, they'll give you flowers and riches and blah 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 blah, and then turn out they're just just like the rest of them. But yeah, I definitely think that this is just about one, just letting that go. But I also think here too, there's something there about people who can say they can do the work for you, kind of help you, just like you do this one magic thing, this whatever, and all your situations just kind of go away. I think there's something about being mindful about that too, using that your intuition when it comes to Scorpio, using that because there's Scorpio can smell when something's off. They can sense that thing. And I think there's just something there about when it comes to reaping this great harvest, no one can do that work for you. This is something that people can offer you tools and different things, and offer them ways that maybe they've gotten through that, but that doesn't mean that that's going to work for you. Like how I wouldn't tell someone who has a bunch of earth to, do something fiery, I maybe can make a recommendation and they can figure out how that looks on them. But, that's where I think that it comes to, you take what resonates with you and kind of leave the rest there. So that's what I kind of get with that burn the rainmaker. And then when we get to the 6th line, which this is a dope one, this says, blessed by heaven, all goes well. And I really think that there's just a need to kind of hold that for a minute. What would that energy of just feeling at ease? And I understand that, but we have things going on, and it can hard be, it can be hard to maybe sometimes find the blessings, but there's so much going on. I just think about here, it rains a lot here, and it's been raining particularly hard. And I just, I've been been just getting a lot more out, getting outside more here lately, and just kind of really appreciating those times when it does kind of rain, because that, when in a different time, that was, water's a source of life. And if your culture depends on the rain, that's a gift. Just something as simple as that. And I think that there's a need to just kind of, just whenever you just those fill in those little moments, like, or find little pockets where you can fill in, just like find like joy in things, even if you're having like a rough day. You know what? Yeah, I might have this going on, this going on, this going on, but man, that breakfast slapped. Man, I had a really great conversation with such and such today. You know what? It was nice hearing those birds doing this thing and that. I love this painting here on this building. I'm digging that graffiti. That's really working. Like little things like that. And I find those little wins, they accumulate to even bigger wins. It reminds me kind of like the Six of Wands sort of energy. This great harvest. So that's, and I think that with time, if you're in a time where you don't feel that great harvest, don't feel this abundance, that all will go well. It's just a part of the cycle. It's this ebb and flow. And I find this when we're in the flow, before things get back again, it's like, how do we fill up and get enough prepared for when things kind of fall back? So we have more tools to call upon for those kind of maybe rougher patches in time, when we go through like 6th house, 8th house, 12th house transits, even maybe sometimes tricky 2nd house transits. So, just some things to kind of think about there, I think, with that great harvest as well. But overall, I like the overall energy that's coming from this hexagram here. I think it's a lot of like letting go that weight of the past, and allowing just filling it up with fresher energy, filling up with newness. And I think that's a great way of working with Scorpio energy. Now let's go ahead and get into the tarot, because I'm gonna, actually a couple things before we jump into that. These readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situation. Oh, let me turn that on. Apply these situations that make sense for your situation. And also, I'm gonna be talking about different topics, like as far as like money matters and medical things, some legal topics, romance things, but this is by no means professional advice. Definitely talk to your financial advisors, your energy healers, your doctors, your lawyers, all those professionals. I'm always a pro for that. Let's get some water, and then let's go ahead and get into your tarot. That's what happens when you got 5 things left, fire placements. Now, I'm going to be pulling 6 cards, and they're going to cover different things, obviously. And I'm going to get a clarifier for card 4 and card 6, since those were your changing lines there. But let's go ahead and get into your first card, which talks about any short-term money matters. Let's see how you've been spending your time. Ooh, look at that, new opportunities. A great harvest. You got the Ace of Coins, and this is just the potential for a great harvest. This could just be dirt. It just be a bunch of bugs gathered around a coin in the dirt. The aces are the root of situations, of the root of the energies, and this is the root of any sort of material matter. So it's appropriate that we're talking about your money. This could be where you need to talk to a financial advisor. Maybe talk with a stockbroker. Maybe talk with someone who's very savvy with money. Maybe this is a good friend, whatever happens to have like an accounting background. But something where maybe you're getting a situation where you're getting your finances in order, maybe digging deeper into something. Maybe you've been feeling like maybe someone's been providing a lot more. You're wanting to balance that out. I'm even getting like the 6 of Pentacles type of energy here. But yeah, this Ace of Coins, this can be, honestly, literally whatever you want it to be. This could be maybe just an invitation to buy yourself something a little nice. Go treat yourself. Have a treat yourself day. go get that nice suit, or go get that dress, or go get that watch. Whatever that's looking like for you. Appreciate the materials. It's not, I think there's a balance there. We can't take any of the stuff with us, but there's a Venusian energy that's kind of coming through there, where we do want to make it a point to enjoy the aspects of this matrix that we're going through. You know, appreciate the material things and the stuff that's built. You know, that might be something too, maybe looking for some sort of inspiration with this Ace of Coins, you know, whatever that might be looking like. And maybe we're starting up some sort of like, this could be your first investment for a business. And in an investment can be just buying some sort of equipment. Maybe you're about getting your first camera. Maybe you're getting your name plaque for when you have your desk for, you know, that can be something as small as that. So let this Ace of Coins be whatever this blessing is, let it be just that, you know. You may find like $1 or something on Shinn. Hopefully, you know what? I found $10 once. There was a period of time I was finding money all over the place. It's kind of wild. So, not that I'm saying we don't look up while we're walking, but pay attention. Sometimes you get omens like that. I might actually take a look around. So that's just something to think about. But I also think that too, this Ace of Coins can be, even to like when we're talking just like resources, I'm thinking about where you're spending your time too. And just thinking about that burn the rainmaker, where, you know, that's interesting. I'm even got in like a prognosticating sort of energy where, you know, this can be as if we're predicting something's going to happen, let's invest our time in something different. You know, like, why do we have to go down the same thing over and over again? That's something that's kind of coming through there as well. A little something to think about. But let's get to your second card here, which talks about any sort of like medical matters or anything like that. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, interesting. Time to get fired up. You got the King of Wands here, and this is like, he's just like all fire all day. I love it in the Thoth deck. He's got this cape of fire. He's really doing it. For me, if we're talking medical matters, this could literally just be to get moving. You know, just like, and that doesn't have to be anything aggressive. It could be something just as light stretches. This could be maybe if you work at a sedentary job, you know, just so that you don't get stiff. You know, just doing some sort of leg things, or we're twisting now. You know, just like that, sound effects and all. And I really think too, doing some things like, especially there's something about moving the energy that helps get things inspired to new ideas come up when you feel fired up, like the King of Wands here. You know, I just think there's a question of when's the last time you felt alive? You know, just like really going out and just doing something. Yeah, something that's And I mean like an inspiration, you know, like maybe someone's like, you know, let's go for a hike somewhere. Let's go to I'm not quite sure, something that can really be very beneficial for the body. You know, like it's doing those little things that, you know, it's a more kind of holistic sort of a approach to this health here. It's more than just the eating healthy, the moving. It requires a number of things. I think those exercises, they can be more exciting. You don't have to go for a walk. You go for a walk in a park or go for a hike, or instead of, you know, going for a swim at a pool, maybe go swim at a lake. You know, if that's something that's available. You know, whatever that's looking like for you. So, I even too think that this could be someone getting some people moving. You know, maybe this could be where you for example, maybe you got like a friend group and you start like a walking thing, or maybe for like a neighborhood thing. You know, you start like a group or something like that. Maybe you're starting a new thing with the family or partner or whatever, the dog. You know, whatever that's looking like. But yeah, something to get that King of Wands out his seat. He can't sit still that long. All right, let's go ahead and get into your third card here, which talks about any sort of like legal matters or social affairs, things along those lines. Oh, look at that. So you got the Ten of Coins here. You know what? I'm getting an energy of like, you know, maybe for some we're dealing with some sort of inheritance here. You know, maybe came across a little bit of, it doesn't have to just be money, maybe this could be some sort of things, you know, maybe, or this, if this is not a situation that's going on, you know, maybe this is something that's you know, that we're thinking about possibly. That might be what that King of Wands is thinking about, not feeling, you know, the body does what it does. Once as it starts to get some solar returns under its belt, maybe a couple of Jupiter returns, a couple of Saturn returns, you know, we start thinking about, like, okay, what am I leaving behind for everyone else to enjoy? What has been the purpose of this thing? You know, when people think about me, how am I going to be remembered? What kind of legacy am I leaving behind? This is the great work, the great sacrifice when we're talking about in the ET. Oh, not appropriate. You know, just this is not part of your hexagram. I mean, it is, but it's not the focus. But you know, the hexagram message for this is the sign of the great sacrifice. And so there's strong energy here with that text. You've been blessed by heaven with something, and all goes well for everyone. This thing that, you know, when you're living in your path and in your purpose, that benefits all of us. You know, we all reap that. And so I think that maybe that question is maybe something that's coming to mind, where we're thinking about, like, okay, what does this next phase of my life look like? How do I want to think about going forward there? You know, I remember my grandma started like selling, we were just getting a bunch of stuff, just start giving stuff away, got chairs and all this stuff. I was like, man, but you know, you start thinking about those things. You know, we're wrapping up some stuff. You know, we're passing things along, we're getting rid of some things. It's, you know, it's just all part of the natural process in life, and I don't think it's anything that needs to be. And you know, maybe we're thinking with social affairs, maybe we're wanting to be around those. Like, look at that, look at this little smorgasbord. This is abundant smorgasbord that's happening here. Maybe we want to celebrate in a harvest, celebrate life. You know, with this 10 of coins, not about all the things that you can do right now. You know, I think that there's even something deeper there. And know that I think something too here, a message that it's never too late to start this up. 10 of coins this is something that we just do until the journey's done, you know, or at least our experience in this body's done. So I think that that's something where just enjoy it. There's never, it's never too late until it is. So, you know, and that's some Scorpio topics to talk about. These are more intense feelings that may be coming up during this time. I think that's appropriate, but I don't think that it's something that needs to be shied away, or something that needs to become like, you know, where it's taboo or anything. This again, you know, it's like just something there with that. Let's get into your next energy here, which talks about any sort of marriage or romantic matters, relationships, things like that. Interesting. So you got the Hermit here. And you know, maybe you're in a place where you've been in hermit mode. You've been just in there writing, we're doing your great work. And we love that great work. But we want to see your face. We miss you. And I think that's just one thing that's coming through. You know, not to just be in just like constant contemplation, but being out amongst people too, like sharing what you've been contemplating. That's a great way of working with the gibbous. Of sharing some information, disseminating. This is a disseminating moon, so we're spreading the seeds around or something. And I think that this hermit too. Maybe some of us are just thinking about, like, maybe that might be something. Maybe you're thinking about a family. Possibly they're like, who am I? Do I have a progeny? Do I have someone to pass the torch along to with this King of Wands? Hey, this is a very interesting reading. You know, I really like this story that's coming through. And we're going to get it clarified with this Hermit in a moment. But I think there are some deeper questions, especially when we get a major arcana like the Hermit. You know, I think that this is really just some asking yourself these deeper, creating the space, maybe even to just ask yourself these sort of deeper questions here. But let's get a clarifier on this Hermit and see what's going on here. I like that. So you got the Ace of Cups here. Oh, and you know what? That Ace of Cups has been hiding for too long. Trying to get knocked out of my hand. No, no one can take your harvest away from you, not even that Rainmaker. You know, you can always feel this sense of fulfillment. And I think that's what this Hermit is reflecting on. What fulfills me? What fills up my cups? You know, and how do I want to share this drink with others? You know, how do I want to pass this chalice around? What is my holy grail quest? And I know this is where we're talking in the romantic matters here, and that might be something where, again, who am I partnering up with? You know, what is my, do I have people around me that, and this might be something too. Maybe you're feeling a change that's coming in, and you're thinking about wanting to share this with your partner, and like how do, like, hey, I need to get in. I'm feeling these deeper things coming up, and I just maybe need some time possibly here. And that might be just Ace of Cups, just kind of asking for that support, just creating that space to process whatever's going on. And that might be something too where maybe if there's been something simmering in a relationship, you know, expressing these things and not keeping that stuff bottled up there. So that's something that's I think to think about there. Yeah, maybe you've been feeling a little cooped up a little long, and just time to allow yourself, if it resonates, to allow yourself for your heart to open up again. You know, I think that's something to consider. Now let's get into your fifth card, which talks about any sort of like immediately pressing affairs and things along those lines. Let's see what's happening there. Look at these aces. So you got the Ace of Wands here. And so, yeah, like whatever we're starting here, whatever you're, like, if you're now, Ace of Wands right now, yesterday, even, you know, I really do enjoy the Ace of Wands. This is a chance. I think of the aces, you know, that's that the you know the source of fire, the primordial fire, you know, the thing that the initial spark to life, the whole thing that keeps that's brought everything that's in front of you together here. You know, I think that there's something that's whatever immediately is demanding your attention. I think this is the time, especially if you're starting up something new or thinking about your legacy. And again, this might just be an invitation just to start thinking about those things. Like, what is that? Like, you know, what you know, it may not be something that makes sense until we get more into like when the sun's in Taurus and we got a bit more Earth in the classical planets. But that just might be something to think about there with that Ace of Wands. Yeah, that's my like right now card. I remember asking the Ace of Wands a really, or I had the Ace of Wands asking like a really important shift in my life, and yeah, I'm thankful for it. Yeah, definitely thankful for it. That's what started this channel. Now let's get to your last card here, which talks about the destiny or the karma of the situation. Nice. Wow. Interesting. All right, so you got the Ten of Cups here. And it's a fulfilled feeling, but then it just like then the feeling just kind of stops. This an interesting one thing that I'm feeling right now. It's like we get to this thing, but there's always something else, you know. And I think that that's the conundrum of this experience, that there is always a bigger dream that's coming there. And I think that there's something too, just like who we're bringing along on this dream, you know, like when you're going through this, because we're all going through this together here. But yeah, I think that there's something, there's almost a bit of disillusionment, I think, sometimes that can come maybe with the Ten of Cups, is what at least I'm kind of feeling here. And this might be something where you thought maybe that a certain dream had, or something had to look a certain type of way, but it only has to look your type of way. You know, maybe you're just with that hermit, we're trying to figure out what our way is. Maybe there's someone here to maybe help you find that way. That might even be something too there, where you're maybe making just a new family. Your family's expanding in some sort of way there. Whatever that family might look like. It doesn't have to be just like a love family. This could be a friend group, things along those lines. But Yeah, this is a very interesting combination of energies here. Very strong statement. Let me get a clarifier with this Ten of Cups here. So you have the Nine of Swords here. You know, I think that there's anxiety around this. You know, a lot of maybe nervousness about once you have it, it's like how do you keep it, and maybe even like a talking yourself out of it. I mean that's very interesting. You know what's coming through here with this Nine of Swords, but it's something that's getting in the way of you from even just trying. You know, maybe that bit. And I think that it's just like, are you going to let something keep you from feeling that fulfillment, or do we need to just ponder a little bit more? We just need to, stay in the hermit for a little bit, just. But you're just sitting on a lot of seeds here with the Ace of Cups, Wands, and Coins. It can manifest, but now it's like just getting the thoughts there. The only ace you're missing is the Ace of Swords. So that's just like getting our head maybe wrapped around something. You know, that might be what's missing here. Let's get some advice from Mars. All right, so you got the Six of Coins here, and let's go ahead and switch back over. Because, the Six of Coins, I really think that there's a need to pay attention to what you've been giving your energy to, how you've maybe been spending your blessings or not spending your blessings. Maybe you've just been sitting on blessings, and maybe just kind of just like, hoping that it'll just kind of all figure itself out with it. It just feels kind of aimless energy. That's very fascinating what's coming through with that. And maybe that Six of Coins, just looking at how this deer, elk thing is wandering on this mountain. Maybe it's not sure where it wants to put the energies at yet. But this is interesting. This is the moon in its exaltation, the moon in Taurus. And I think that if there's something that maybe you've been opposing I think it's worth putting some energy into. I think with the Six of Coins here, something that's whatever started this thing. It just seems to start with just one move, and going from there. That's very interesting. Great harvest to come in. Let's reap those rewards. But I think I'm going to leave that there. A little something to meditate on. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who would get some. Oh, we're not doing the thumbs up thing? Oh, that's fine. But share this if you know somebody who would get some nuggets of wisdom. We're moving on. Some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, you hermit. Hit that bell button to get notified of these videos each day. And then let me get your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to know what's going on with the other celestial bodies, down in the description box is a link for my other channel, Alchemist 8, where I do weekly videos releasing every Mercury day, that's a Wednesday, talking about just how to work with the celestial bodies and what signs they're transiting, so you know where to look in your chart for those placements. And I also have one where I'm doing this series of different celestial bodies in different zodiac signs in different houses. This little series that I have, and I have them all broken up by on a playlist, so that's available for you. But let's go ahead and get into your surprise cards here. Well, I like that. I really like that. So you got the Weaver card here, and you got the Love card here. And you know what? I think that this is the time to weave as much love in your life as you can. Make this Ten of Coins happen, this Ten of Cups happen. You see, you feel the vision. Let's make it materialize. You got all this energy here that's supporting that. That wants you to feel this sense of fulfillment. And I'm even getting where maybe we're on that Nine of Swords, because that's the only sort of in this reading where it's like a nervousness of maybe like losing it. But I think when it comes to thinking about something that we've lost, it's I don't think it's necessarily just like a lost thing. I think it just shows how much we cared about something, and to remember too the we know why we cared about something so much, and reliving those sort of times, the times when there was just like love and all of these things, and just something to. It kind of reminds me, when I kind of remember when around my grandparents, when my grandpa had passed on. My grandma never quite got over that. They had a very unusual relationship, but there was a lot of love. Despite all of what they've gone through, there was always a lot of love there. And yeah, like it's, and I think it's the Pisces. And I think it just, I think if you have that fear of that loss, then you'll never experience that love. There's just something what you're trying to avoid, you're missing on something, which is fine. That's. But I think that there's just something to be be mindful of that. I think that's just a kind of interesting message that just kind of popped in my head. So yeah, something to think about. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon. And I will catch you. Oh, when am I going to catch you? Let's see. On the next one, I think they said Mars Day.